Hello, everybody. My name is Bréhault, and I'm going to talk to you about the JavaScript Chrome client, which have been introduced by Eric in this keynote this morning. Yeah, I know the word here, which is kind of worrying, is JavaScript, right? So I made a small poll on Twitter. I asked, recoding this receive form in GIS sounds smart, stupid, or seriously? Well, first reaction was, yeah, seriously? Are we doing that? Well, I know a lot of people are complaining about modern JS is really too complicated, right? It's like changing every time. You have every time something new to learn, and the process to build even a very simple thing you could do with 2 lines of jQuery is like crazy, and the tooling is crazy as well. Well, that's actually true. I cannot deny that, okay? But I read a blog post like a week ago or something, and it was talking about the JavaScript fatigue, right? Because everybody's complaining about JavaScript fatigue. Every 2 weeks or so, you have a new package error, you have a new framework or so. And so we do experiment this JavaScript fatigue. But there is also the JavaScript fatigue, right? And the guy was saying basically that's just like when you cook, well, it takes time. You're going to prepare something, but you prefer to do that instead of eating raw meat, right? And it was kind of fun, and that's actually quite true. So I'm going to talk about a French recipe. Do you know that it's blanquette de veau? How many of you know about blanquette de veau? Few of them? Yeah, okay. Well, that's something really famous in France, and I do cook that from time to time for my family. And actually, you need some medium-sized cubes of veal, right? You put lemon on it, and then you need lemon because you're going to boil it for a long time. And if you don't put lemon, the meat is going to turn red or brown. And with lemon, you're going to keep white, okay? And if it's not white, that's not blanket, right? So that's really important. And you will need also a few carrots. You will need lorette, rosemary. You will need 1 onion, but you don't cut it. You just take the entire onion and you pin a clove on it. That's really important detail. And you're gonna boil really slowly for 1 hour and a half, okay? But 20 minutes before it is cooked, you need to take a small amount of the juice and to blend it with flour and cook it with a strong fire in order to make something like a bechamel, right? You know, probably bechamel. But this is going to be the actual blanquette sauce, right? So when it's all done, you can serve it together, and it's really delicious, okay? So that's how you actually do blanquette de veau, right? Or you can kill a veal and eat the raw meat, okay? Well, 2 approaches. Both are valid, but I do like blanquette de veau, okay? So that's what it's about with JavaScript. We do need the complexity because we are doing complex stuff, and at the end we get something which worth it, right? So that's the thing about why we should be accepting that JavaScript is complex, right? But now, regarding Plone itself, developing a CMS in JavaScript, why would we want that? Okay, really? Well, reason number 1, right now, the entire web is shaped by JavaScript, right? There is no way you can avoid JavaScript. You need it everywhere. You see it everywhere. But it's not just about the techniques. Right? It's not about the development itself. It's about the whole thing. Even when you're going to recruit someone, when you're going to have some order from your customers, JavaScript is there. You might find some excellent JavaScript skill out there, but it might be difficult to find a good Python skills. So that's something you cannot avoid, and that's part of our system right now. But CMS features are still a must-have. You need that. We cannot ask the users to use Postman to make some JSON request on the backend server. Of course not. We do need the CMS feature. They are useful, even if everything is changing, the browsers are changing, we're going to have HTTP2 and so on. It makes no difference. The users are the same kind of people. They need CMS. I don't know if you heard about Contentfull. Contentfull is a product. It's not open source at all, and they're offering an headless CMS, right? So it's an API, and you can use it with whichever framework you want. And something bites me. Their headline is like a CMS without the bad bits, right? That's how they advertise themselves. I have the strange and bad feeling that the bad bits here, that's us, right? That's Plone, or that might be WordPress or Drupal. That's what they're talking about here. And they're advertising their stuff that way, saying, well, you know about the old stuff, the ugly stuff, the dirty stuff. Drupal, WordPress, Plone, whatever. We are different. We are offering something better, something you're going to like. Well, that's not necessarily true, okay? But the message is not wrong. There are some audience out there which are actually wanting this kind of new tools. And, well, for instance, if you consider WordPress is a world-leading CMS ever, right? Do you think we can ever beat WordPress on its own market? We cannot, right? We don't even try, okay? But that's not important. What we need to think about is the next market, not the today market. And, well, I'm not sure the next market is going to be headless CMS, but it might be. And what I know about it is that when it's going to be the actual thing to do, there will be no difference anymore between WordPress or Plone or Drupal. Whoever is going to provide the right API going to be the one who's going to get this market, right? Because it won't be anymore about how the backend is done, but how the API behave and what kind of ready-to-use component, JavaScript component you're going to offer to people. That's what will make an actual difference. Right now, if someone has to choose a CMS, he might consider that PHP is simple, something I know, maybe I'm going to prefer that. But tomorrow, that won't be relevant anymore. It will be only about how you can manage your JavaScript development using this CMS. So that's actually really relevant, right? So what I think is we do know about CMSs, right? We don't just know about how Plone work, how to develop Zop stuff or Python. We do know about CMS features a lot. There's a lot of knowledge in our community about that. So why not building a JS one, right? Why not? That was reason number one. Reason number two is something you might have experimented with Plone 5. Integrating frontend into backend is painful, right? Ask Andreas Jung. He would tell you something about that, right? You have been playing maybe with the bundles, with mockups and so on, and the whole idea to have all this stuff which is offering good and modern practices to build JavaScript stuff, but to put that into backend somehow, to have this connected to the registry and so on, that's painful, right? Why is it? Because that's not the natural way to go. Let's do frontend the frontend way. That makes sense, right? So let's forget about all this thing having the frontend shared between backend and front, and let's build everything the front-end way, right? That's actually good architecture. So what are we talking about? Well, this npm install Plone client. Maybe you should have said yarn install Plone client, maybe. But yeah, the thing is, don't type it; it won't work. Okay, it's not already on the npm repository. It could be, but it's not. The Plone client gonna be the top part of this slide. This is the slide from the Raymond talk, and it's gonna be the part on top of the API which provide everything about viewing the website, using the website, managing the content. Everything the user gonna see, this is gonna be Plone client, right? And everything under that, the business model, the data model, the content rules, and so on, are going to be managed by the server, right, through the API. So that's about, well, handling the theming, of course. Well, seeming CSS and JS sounds quite okay to be managed in JavaScript, in front-end technology, right? But that's also Z3C form or formlib. That's also templating, viewlets, portlets, and all the fancy feature we can offer to the content manager, right? To the person going to manage the content. So that could be covered by Mosaic, for instance, and everything you might imagine regarding configuring the website. So that's a lot, right? That's not that easy. What we have for now is something which is working on top of the API, and the good thing about it is that it does work right now on Plone server, which have been introduced by Raymond, but also on Plone 5 with Plone REST API. Okay, the same code, exactly the same one, going to behave the same way. And you might find the repository, you can play with it, it's actually working. It's in GitHub Plone, so it's not in GitHub Pyrenees, as mentioned Raymond regarding the server, because it does actually work with Plone 5, right? So you can use it the way it is, and it can be actually a good way to play with it and see how you could use Plone server as well instead of Plone. Why not? It's actually don't make any difference between the two of them because of the APIs. That's all the point of having a REST API, of course. So now, how is it done? It's built with Angular 2. Okay, Angular 2 is quite new. It's been released this year. Well, lately, I think it was in September. Yeah, September. The releasing have been quite painful, but now it's a really nice piece of software and something you can have a good feeling about, I think. It's based on components, right? So everything we might have referred to as viewlets or portlets are actually components, and they are pure client-side components. So you can see the kind of code you're going to have. This could be your main template. Basically, you can have a Plone header, a Plone navigation, a Plone toolbar, Plone content, everything going to be a component, an actual component you would use as any HTML element, right? And this comes with a logic and some calls to the backend API, right? So that's quite clean, right? It works with registries, so our beloved registries are there. We have implemented systems which does reproduce the same mechanism. So you can register a view, you can register a component, you can override an existing component with yours. This kind of thing which does work. It's not as rich and flexible as the ZCA for now, but that's basically the idea. This was not provided by Angular 2, okay? Angular 2 is a framework, and the people who are building it are focusing on, well, regular project. Of course they are. And CMS is not a regular project. Making a CMS is like a big thing, because when you have a CMS, you need to be able to build any website with it. While when you create an application, a JavaScript application, you are just targeting one use case, right? And so we need to provide something which is pluggable, customizable. So it means a lot in terms of architecture. So we are building some key things that we know does work for CMS, because we have been doing that for Plone for years, and we are just using the same principle and turning it into Angular 2 mechanism, right? So we do have the registries. We do have something different than JavaScript as well. I know that Python developers are really reluctant to use JavaScript because it's kind of ugly. It's something you don't feel good about. TypeScript is actually really interesting language. It's nothing like CoffeeScript, for instance. You might have known what was CoffeeScript. It was basically changing the syntax of JavaScript. It's a superset. It's a superset of JavaScript ES6, all right? And what's really good about it, well, okay, it's gonna implies compilation, right? Transpilation, exactly. But you need it anyway when you're trying to do anything using the modern approach of JavaScript. So you're going to need it for Sass or less, for instance. That's exactly the same for JavaScript. So it's not a big deal. And what you get in exchange of that is you get something really interesting to use. You have types, of course, that's TypeScript. So everything is typed. You can import stuff. So you can import a module. You can import something from an external dependency or something for your inner code, you just do it the exact same way as you do in Python. And you can forget about these crazy things like require.js, which is actually useful and does work, but which is really ugly to write. And you can also forget about what we had, for instance, with Angular 1. All the dependency injection was really verbose. Here, you just have a main module in Angular 2, where you're going to have all your injection performed, and then everything going to be provided to the rest of your application. So all your code base is really clean. You just import such class from such file, such module, and it works exactly how you can expect. So very much like Python does. Of course, you have classes also, you have inheritance, you have decorators, which are really powerful, and it makes all the things very readable and maintainable. Really, it's impressive. So, what do we have for now? What do we get for now in Plone client? Well, first thing, we have a basic Plone UI. You have seen the demo from Eric this morning. It was kind of crappy, but we were working on it yesterday, and it left at 6 p.m. and it was really too late, and we have everything fixed a few hours later. So, yeah, he had to work on his slides, blah blah blah. I don't know. Well, anyway, so now what we have? We have all the elements of the Plone interface componentized, right? So it means navigation, login, breadcrumbs, the footer, search, the toolbar, etc. Everything have been componentized. This means that are elements you can use, put into a template, and it's going to work the way it is, right? We have a theme, so it's a SaaSification of Barcelona. So that's quite straightforward. We took Barcelona to convert it into SaaS, and that's how it works. The important thing about the theme, it can be overwritten at build time. Okay, that means the theme is part of the Angular 2 application. So in a component, a typical Angular 2 component, you're gonna have in the decorator of the component class, you're gonna indicate which is your style. So it's going to be a SAS file, and which is your template, it's going to be an HTML file, right? But that's something that can be overwritten when you build your actual project. Webpack is able to use preloaders, and preloaders are aware of any resource you are trying to get when you are building your bundle, and we have implemented a preloader for Plone theming. And the thing, it's actually working very much like the portal skin custom thing. It's gonna take the precedence on any resource which is named the same way and located at the same location. So if you are, for instance, login.html somewhere, and you put in your custom folder login.html made differently, then automatically Webpack gonna get that one and use yours instead of the default one, right? So that's how it works. It's not it does work. The principle is here. It's not something we have been testing a lot. For now, we have just working on Barcelona, right? I haven't experimented an actual usage of Plone client with a completely different theme. I don't know if it works actually, but the principle that you can override things is easier. Okay. We have server-side rendering. Well, why do we need that? We are building a Plone client. It's going to be running on the client side. That means any visitor of your website going to go on a single page app, basically, and you're going to get the information from the backend and render it dynamically using your components. So that's probably enough, no? Well, the thing with Angular Universal is you're going to reproduce exactly the same behavior, but on the server side, and serve really static pages to your users. It can be useful for first-time rendering, for instance, to improve the performances. It can be also useful for referencing somehow for Googlebot, etc. And it might be useful in any cases. So, for instance, if you want to offer a non-JavaScript enabled website, that's also useful. So that's something which is there. We have a form generator, so that's basically the equivalent of what we had with Z3C form. As Timo explained, it's based on JSON schema. So JSON schema is a standard format for schemas, right? And we have extended it because JSON schema is just about the data, right? So it made no difference between like a text area and a text input or a rich text. This is all string, right? This is about the data, how it is persisted. Okay, so we have extended JSON schema in order to be able to declare everything we need about the widgets, right? About how the form going to be, not necessarily the data. So it's quite advanced. It's working quite nicely. We had to develop it ourselves, unfortunately, even if it was quite kind of fun. There were something really interesting in Angular 1 named Angular Schema Form. And I've been using this module for a long time, and it was really, really good. But people that were not migrating to Angular 2 at the time we were, at the time we start Plone client. So I decided to start our own thing. But I have been in touch with them as I might be interested in collaborating. So maybe going to be the next version. I don't know. But for now, what we have, it's something very rich with all the different widgets you might need. You are able to register new widgets. You might also register new fields. So that's pretty much what you can do with Plone. We have TinyMCE. We have master slave. So you can have, for instance, a checkbox. And if the checkbox is checked, then you have a part of the form which is automatically displayed or hidden. We have data grids, so you can repeat a sub-schema can be repeated as many times as you want, and you're going to create a data grid. So that's kind of feature we have, which are pretty advanced, right? And it's all customizable, right? And this is a separate project than Plone client. Plone client is using it as a dependency. It can be used elsewhere, and Ramon going to show you that. We have views. So we provide the basic views like add, edit, view, search as well, login and logout are views. And we can register views, right? And those views are actually processed by the client, and we traverse to we actually route to the right content in the API. The routing is not totally fine. I know I need to improve it, but it's actually works. So you can have any page of your website and add, and you're gonna have the add view or edit, and you're gonna go to the edit view just like you have on your actual Plone site. And this is something which is not common with AngularJS or any other framework actually, because most part of people are focused on routing, right? That's how you do a single page application. We don't. We cannot do that. We are running a CMS, right? We cannot say people say all the pages going to be in /pages, blah, blah. No, we cannot do that. Of course, we don't want that. So here we had to imagine the way to manage that properly. And it goes, I mean, it's totally doable and does work nicely with Angular 2, okay? But it's something which is not ready to use, basically. It's not part of the regular toolkit. Yeah. So I'm going to show a demo. So that's Raymond computer because I had some issue with mine. Yes, here we go. So I need to log out, I think, first. So I have no idea if it's going to work because I was supposed to run the demo on my machine and I just can't connect to the projector. But yeah, I'm quite confident. So that's what we have for now. So you can recognize Barcelona, right? This is the home page. We can navigate. So you can see it's not reloading the page. It's just calling the backend to get the content. Here I don't know what's the actual content, but anyway. So that's how you get as a visitor. We can log in. Do you know the login is admin? Yes, of course. Okay. So now we're logged and we get the toolbar, right? Wow. So I can go to, I can add a new folder, for instance. I know I don't have folders. Well, anyway. This is a folder, I guess. Yes. It's okay. I'll create a new page. Problems with the sound of the click. No, well, it's not working now. No matter. I'm gonna go back to and create something and just edit here. So that's it. Yeah. So here, that's where we get the form generator. So everything here. So it's kind of messy, right? Because it's not ordering the stuff properly, but it's actually getting the different field set from the schema of the current content, which is a document, and rendering it with a different widget. So we have TinyMC here. Well, it's actually not the last version. This is a broken version. Anyway, so we can go back to view. Yeah, no, we cannot. It's all broken. Well, that's so I don't even know if I can change the workflow. Maybe I can. Yes, I can. So it works. We can search also. So here you have results. So this is basically what you can do with it for now, right? It's not much, but it does work. Well, some part of it was not working in this demo, but that's something which is fixed. And yeah, it actually implements all those stuff I've been demoing or tried to demo. You can create new contents and new content in new contents. I mean, it does route, it does match the right rendering to the different view you have. It does everything you might need to actually manage content. It does not do anything about configuration, for instance. It does not allow to manage what could be tiles, for instance, with a mosaic equivalent. This is not done yet, but that's something we're gonna do. So here is it for the demo. I don't think I need to show anything else. No, that's it. So go back to my slides. Yeah, now another demo about something different, but based on kind of the same thing. The Plone manager, that's something Raymond gonna demo.
Well, the main idea is that we've been trying to do the Plone client, and it's definitely really a lot of work. And I think that it will be, you see, doing what Eric has shown you, it's been like a lot of months dealing with how we deal with this kind of automatic generation of things that we do in Plone. In JavaScript, I think that we are going to focus on having more targeted applications that are built on top of Plone client and Plone REST API. Otherwise, if we try to create all the same that we have in Plone in JavaScript, we may end crazy or something worse. So this is an example of this idea. Last week where I was thinking I'm going to Plone conference, I would like to show something that it's visible about Plone server, because as you know, a backend, as Eric said, how do you make people say, oh, wow, if you show code or a terminal? It's like, oh, it's really ugly, no? So I was thinking, why don't use what Eric has been working about, this schema form library and Angular 2 material, this cool new stuff and new kids on the rock, an Electron to create like a really prototype. So it's a prototype, it's really experimental, just to show the proof of concept. GMI to work on a Plone, on a desktop application. So I had an afternoon, and yesterday Eric helped me to understand the Angular 2 schema form, and it's really nice. I can show you. So I need to switch from Plone backend to Plone server backend, and I need to stop the Plone client, and I need to start the Electron application of Plone Manager. So this is the, sorry, there is a lot of things here. I don't know if I can, yeah, I can do it full screen. So this is a simple Electron application, so you can deliver that as an executable on Windows, Mac, Linux, whatever you want. It's built with Angular 2 and Materials 2, and it's using the Plone client libraries for dealing with the schema. We are trying to create an API library using both ideas. So we have a JavaScript library to consume the REST API. So how it works, so we define here, I don't know if you see that a bit bigger, the kind of server you have, CMF Plone or Plone server. You define the server, the ZODB, the site, the port. You can create new sites. You can define the authentication if it's basic. It also supports to you to get the token from an OAuth server. And when you have all these things configured, you can go to browser. And okay, I'm not a designer, so sorry. This is the root of the Plone site, where I get the sharing permissions, the local and the inherit permissions with the roles of the users, and I get list of content. So I have like different content here, and I can go to this one, and it shows me the metadata information, and I can go again to parent, and I can go again to this document with all the sharing information, all the fields, and since yesterday we are able to create a new document on this place. This is using the schema form, blah blah, conf text, whatever. Save. And now I just got a new document inside my folder. It's called PloneConf, and I can go there and just see it. This application also supports exposing all the registry information that we have. This is the case of Plone server, that it's a really small registry. There is only this option right now. And all the types that we have registered on the Plone, so you can browse there. So it's quite simple use case to consume the API, building a desktop application to do whatever. So the imagination is the limit here. So we can create applications for dealing with a blog site, to create applications to dealing with a document, or a stock management, or whatever you want, to focus on a specific solution and deliver binary applications or web applications that fulfills the needs. I just wanted to show this idea.
Okay, thank you, Roman. So that's just a basic reuse of some components involved in the client, and it have been set up in a very different way. It served a different objective. So that's interesting about the flexibility of the whole thing. What we plan for the future, for the near future, is to have first something like Mosaic, right? That's something Raymond already worked on. It sounds totally possible to do that quite easily, actually. We're going to reuse the same principle as Mosaics. We're going to save the layout as an HTML template, and we're going to render in this layout the different piece, the different types we want, the fields or whatever it might be, okay? And this is something which is really quite easy to do with Angular 2. We also want to have a CLI. So basically, the ability to have to create a new Plone project. So you're going to go Plone, create my new Plone, and you're going to set up an Angular 2 project for you with all the dependency you might need, and then you can start customizing stuff, creating new theme, creating new components or views or whatever. We also want to support traversals better ways, because right now we are using the default routing from Angular 2, and it's basically really stupid. We just are matching all the routes, so star, I mean everything, to a single component which does parse manually the current path and then detect what's going to be the URL of the backend equivalent of the current object, extract what's going to be the view name, and then render it properly. It's not how we want to do it, because Angular 2 allows to create your own resolver for the routing. We plan to have an actual traversing mechanism for Angular 2, and we're going to implement that. We also plan to provide a Plone front-end API. For now, the Plone client is just like a big project with all the components and all the interface in the same thing, and we cannot really depend on this and build a site from scratch, right? So we want to extract everything which is about dealing with the backend, rendering the different components, having all the utilities you have made into an API, so you can then create your own project using this API, and your project is going to be really clean, really simple, just focusing on what you want to do exactly. So that's something which we need to do, and we also want to provide very simple, reusable examples. So we are thinking, for instance, like creating a blog website, right, where you can post blogs and display the blogs, having categories, kind of stuff. So something really simple, but that would be interesting because it can be reused. So someone which is totally not a Plone developer can take it and create a blog and create all these Angular 2 things he knows about and have something working. And it's going to be also really interesting to understand how it works and how you can reuse and how you can understand Plone client and get involved in the whole thing. Because for now, it's kind of, as Raymond said, probably too big. We have been trying to do everything Plone is actually doing. That's too much, probably too soon. So we want to provide something much cleaner or simpler, right? That's what we plan for the future. So that's it. Any questions? Thank you. Okay, Paul.
I have one question, 3 parts.
Okay.
First part is what you're doing, what the preview is showing is absolutely wonderful. And
Cool.
if you can pull it all, Plone will have a great new life. That's fantastic. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much.
Second, kind of simple, you were showing URLs that didn't have a hash in it. So are you saying that Plone servers backend supports HTML5 push backend?
Yeah, it's using it's not using the old way of routing using yeah, sure. It could be switched on or off. That's really easy, but basically nobody wants that. Okay, right.
Second thing is you talked about having a CLI, but for people who just want to consume it and make it very like what Raymond was saying about a specific app, instead of general CMI, if they want to use Angular CLI. Are you going to support that?
Yeah, we're actually using Angular CLI, right? Okay. So what we want to do is something on just like Ionic people are doing right now. You know Ionic maybe? Yeah. Okay. They do have a CLI, so you can really easily create a new Ionic application, and then inside that you can use the NG client. Okay, so that's, we are not replacing the NG client at all. We just are making the equivalent of Mr. Bob, for instance. You're gonna initialize a build out and a Python eggs for you with all the rest that you need to have a Plone project, which is gonna be exactly the same with Plone client with Angular 2, right? That's what we need to do. Yeah, Fulvio?
You mentioned TypeScript. I wasn't clear. Is that something that you introduced in,
Oh, no.
Or is it part of Angular 2, or where did that come from?
Well, it comes from Microsoft.
No, I mean,
but
I mean in this context.
Because Angular 2 is based on TypeScript, right?
Oh, okay.
You can use Angular 2 without TypeScript, but that would be really stupid. All the good thing about it is you do use TypeScript to do Angular 2, and that's make it really wonderful. For instance, just declaring a component is just as beautiful and elegant as declaring a Plone adapter, for instance. It's just few decorators, and yes, there's no HTML, right? It's more a grok approach of the thing, but yeah, it's really, really clean. And it makes a whole difference. Really, I mean, I really love Python, and I enjoy programming JavaScript, but it's always kind of painful to see how ugly it is. And this is really different, right? And the good thing about it is it is a superset. So you can still write JavaScript thing. It's going to work. So someone who is an actual front-end developer would be okay with that. But a Python developer would be okay with that too. So that's really good. I think it's a very good thing. Okay, you can.
two clients connected to your backend,
Yes.
and one client, say, adds a page, will the other client see the new page without doing a reload?
Right now, no, but Plone server will provide WebSocket, so that's exactly how it's going to work.
Oh, it will.
Absolutely. So right now, it's WebSocket are here, but the Plone clients are not using it to get information back from the server when it's actually displaying something. So that's quite easy to implement, because the Plone server is the whole idea of Plone server is to have this kind of feature, because we want that. Of course, we do want that. Okay. Well, thank you very much.